Okay, so go ahead, read it if you found it.
Okay. Regarding your discussion of the reincarnation trap, I do not think that this is simply someone's belief. Example, there's no evidential basis for this idea. If you do not think a reincarnation trap exists for Earth humans, then you need to critique the evidence put forth by those presenting this idea. David Icke makes the case for a reincarnation trap, but I have not yet read his books. However, I have read the two books written by Isabella Green, Leaving the Trap and Beyond the Trap. Green can go out of body and travel in the astral plane. She says she discovered that the astral plane appears to have a boundary which is hard to break through. You need to break through this astral boundary in order to get out of the reincarnation cycle on Earth. Green describes how through awakened Kundalini quantum travel, you can break out of the reincarnation cycle bounded by the astral plane. If you do, you can enter the void in the infinite field of Source. Green advises that you need to prepare yourself before dying to be able to break out of the astral plane and the reincarnation cycle and to enter the void. Green says the following, and he lists the pages. Um, Quote, there was a time when humans had all of their abilities intact. We knew our true non-physical essence and could peer into the cosmos. This was threatening to the archons, interdimensional beings in the astral plane, as the humans were as powerful as them. So the decision was made to put an end to it and send a dark cloud over the human eyes to remove our ability for the higher vision. This is I read in Paul Wallace's book, Escaping from Eden. He tells us that the descriptions of the process can be found in the book of Genesis. What he says makes perfect sense to me. If we are always a part of Source, the omnipresent absolute, why are most people not aware of it? Our abilities and our access to the truth are within our dormant DNA, but the DNA wasn't always dormant. It was made dormant by design in order to keep the human workforce controllable and easy to manipulate. If all of us had awakened our Kundalini, burnt away the blindfold, and regained access to the true essence of ourselves, no one would be left to serve the archons. And then he says, Penny says that the reincarnation trap is not true and does not exist. But how do you know whether the reincarnation trap does exist? I would argue that you look for evidence. So here is some evidence, at least in my view. Brett Stewart of Technical Intuition and several others remote viewed moksha, which in Indian philosophy and religion means liberation from reincarnation, from the cycle of death and rebirth. See Brett Stewart's account, and he gives information on how to get there. And Stewart's remote viewed account of reincarnation sounds very similar to Isabel Green's account. Speaking personally, I find the idea of reincarnation trap both frightening and depressing. The suffering experience while we are incarnated in the reincarnation cycle, at least on this earth, is horrendous. Wars, disease, corruption, poverty, starvation, secrets, lies, and all kinds of suffering. Isabella Green argues that I need to awaken my Kundalini energy while I'm alive in order to exit the reincarnation trap after death. However, this is very frightening to me. I am afraid to leave my body as experienced in Kundalini. That's why I never took hallucinogenics. Some people have spontaneous Kundalini experiences like Penny, and then Penny spent years trying to understand and manage her Kundalini energy and the consciousness crisis it created. To initiate Kundalini deliberately seems an incredible challenge to me, one which very few people achieve. And this was a question by Richard. So he wants to know what you think about the reincarnation trap.
Okay, so that's really long. Read the first part of the first paragraph again. The first part of the first paragraph about the reincarnation trap.
If you do not think a reincarnation trap exists for Earth humans, then you need to critique the evidence put forth by those presenting this idea.
Okay, stop right there. So So the first thing to be aware of when you're talking about the reincarnation trap is that the only trap that exists is your own set of biases, your own set of frequencies, your own set of goals, your own set of pleasures, the things that you love in life, the things that you would like to avoid, etc. That's the set. Life is this amazing, wonderful gift. We're not trapped in life. It is something that everybody reaches for. And I've said this 100 times. When I first got involved, when I first was struggling to try to figure out what the heck happened to me in terms of my consciousness, out of body was a daily, sometimes a couple times a day kind of thing. You end up seeing things that frighten you back into your body. That then gives you food for thought. Like, what the heck did I just see? What was that? Why did I see that? How did that happen? Why did I think I was out of the body? All of those kinds of questions have to be answered. So long story short, when you come to be as an independent, separate region within this ocean of source, you move from this very high frequency of source down to this whatever range of frequencies you want to experience, whatever kind of life you would like to taste again or enjoy again or experience again, or what, maybe you left a long lost lover or child, or even a favorite pet, or even a particular piece of property in a given range of frequencies, and it's in the 3D range, you might want to go back there and experience life and enjoy that some more. Finish that relationship, rescue that child, or be a support or whatever, or just enjoy the relationship with the land. So we tend, because of the nature, the core nature of what we are raised with, it doesn't matter what your culture is, we are raised in a core culture of it's either good or it's bad. And the reason for that is because that is all the brain is programmed for. It's either good, it's pleasure, or it's bad, it's pain. The brain is only programmed for two things. Why? Because you are to move toward the pleasure and away from the pain. So we have this basic, it's either good or bad attitude. So we carry that attitude into what I call, and I don't want to insult, let's see, how do I want to say that? Green's research or anybody else's research, David Icke, they're going to have that core bias of good and bad in everything that they do and see. And once you have a full Kundalini awakening, it's neither good nor bad. It just is. And you decide whether it's worth your attention or not. The quote, reincarnation trap is just that when you come into this life, it's very, I'll use the word tantalizing, to stay and enjoy some more and some more and another life. And what else can you enjoy? And we do that. It's not a trap. It's just that we're exploring and experimenting with everything that this range of frequencies offers. That's not a trap. If you get to the point where you get caught up in something ugly, then you might have trapped yourself and feel like, oh, I don't want to leave that mess. So you come back again, but it's not a trap. It's you fixing things. And the whole thing is one of the whole good versus bad thing doesn't even address the issue of whose power is it? Is it your power or is it something else's power? And we are programmed from the get-go, from in utero, to know that it's somebody else's power, to think that we don't have any power, to act like we don't have any power. And so that lends to that view of it's a trap. Oh, I'm trapped, I'm caught. I can't get out. Yes, you can. Having said that much, it has been my experience that in that all of the zones, the frequency zones, let's see, how can I say this clearly? They somewhat interpenetrate, and yet at the same time, there's the best way to visualize it is here's the third dimension, and here's the fourth dimension up here. Okay, there's a boundary right here. What is that boundary? That's not, it's not a wall, it's a frequency zone in which when you move through it, your frequencies go, and you can barely see or hear anything because you are attuned to third dimensional vision and hearing and all that down here. And up here, if you can't match these frequencies and hold it, then you're not going to see or hear anything. And so there's this feeling or this, I can see where people would say, oh no, there's, there's some people have called it a membrane. Other people have called it a wall. Other people have said it's a zone. I call it an overlap zone or a hybrid zone. And while you're moving through that, if you don't have the brain capacity to be able to match the frequencies in 4D, you're not going to know you're in 4D because you won't see much, you won't hear much, you won't feel much, period. So, we have some work to do. I think the goal, overarching goal, is to expand consciousness so that we're comfortable in 3D and we can see, hear, and feel and act. And we're comfortable in 4D and we can see, hear, feel, and act there, and in 5D and in 6D. And so that really is what we're having fun with. Life is fun. It's fun. It's supposed to be fun. It's not right now looking fun to a lot of people. Why? Because they're crabby, because they haven't stood up, because they haven't opened their mouth, because they haven't acted in accordance with what they think, and they haven't responded to what they see happening. So yeah, what are they doing? They're watching to see what happens. And it doesn't look like it's, absolutely disastrous right now, but at some point, if you don't take charge, things can get out of hand. So yes, there is a zone. It's like a frequency barrier where you'll feel where sometimes people will say, I'm in this place where it's all black. I can't see anything. You're in the hybrid area. So, and you're basically switching to another frequency set, another frequency zone. So, and then what was the last part of that question?
I don't, he was just sharing his thoughts more or less. He was just wanting to know about the, you
Oh,
know,
about whether I thought the reincarnation trap was true or accurate or whatever.
yeah, that's what I'm kind of getting from it. Now, I do have a question. So if you do pass away, and he's talking about the reincarnation trap,
Yeah.
if you're an old soul, do you have to come back, or what do you do if you're an old soul? You
You
just
have
kind of,
you have to be present enough at the death to be able to say, okay, I want to go here for a little while, and then I would really like to go. You're going to go into the next world. It's an amazing world. It's an amazing place. And you don't have to decide anything immediately. You don't. You have time. In terms of how much time, sometimes as much as 20 Earth years. So you're going to take time. If you died because of you got in a terrible accident, and you were killed in that accident, there'll be some time you're going to spend recovering. You're going to repair and heal yourself over there, and it's going to be a lot easier and faster than here. If it is, let's see, let's say that you leave here and you are angry and you decide you're not going with any of the people who come to say, come with us. then you could get lost in a world and have, I'm going to say, some very interesting adventures. And that will expand you quite a bit. So, you're going to step into another world and you're going to have time to decide. It's a between worlds world.
Okay.
There are places that are set up. People are so much more proficient than we as the population of planet Earth give ourselves credit for.
So can you actually decide to go back into the source and then you no longer exist?
You can. You can.
Okay.
However, you typically have a plan, a deep plan, and Source knows that. So if it's not time for you to go back into Source, you won't. You'll just go to the next part of your plan.
Okay.
Source loves life, and it offers life as a gift to all of us, and we love it. The music, the food, the sex, the visions, the dancing, the holidays, even the wars. Yeah, there are people who come here to experiment just with the various types of weaponry that we have and see what does that kind of weapon look like in the sixth dimension, et cetera, how, and so on. We don't typically have weapons in the sixth dimension, but we have concepts. And so I won't go into that because it's another whole question. But
Okay,
that
so I have another question then. So is soul and spirit the same thing?
no, not technically. We can use that's another example of sloppy language.
So
Um,
what are we? A soul?
a soul is just a term for an independent region of energy. Okay. And
Okay.
once you have declared your boundaries, you can be considered a soul. Is maintaining those boundaries that the soul gets wise and learns. Okay.
So the
Not
spirit
only
is what, like energy? What
the
is what?
spirit is the way that you go about doing your defense of your boundaries.
Okay.
You might be a sourpuss, you might be a crab ass, you might be a absolutely delightful little old woman or child, etc. You might be very creative, you might be a wonderful cook, you might be a wonderful builder, a machinery designer, whatever, a gardener, a farmer. It's the spirit with which you do things, and you can't it's spirit is kind of like a label that's a wide label. If you go, what kind of spirit, then you get into archetypes. And that's why we have the archetypes. Okay. You have to know a little bit about Greek stories, or even Roman. Roman had archetypes as well. But they are words that represent the kind of spirit you have. Okay.
Okay, so the soul is the boundaries that you put around the energy. That's what you said?
An
Okay,
individualized region of source.
okay. So that individualized region of source goes
Yep.
back to source. What, and you said that it could actually come back out of source again and do other things. If
Yes.
it comes back out of source, is it the same soul?
No.
That's what I thought. It's different.
Yeah. If you come back out of source, um, you may tap all of your original places, or I'll say frequencies of being. You may assemble those and it looks a lot like what you've already done, but doesn't have to be. So it's an example. Soul and spirit are example of wonderful words that have been kind of applied by the church in a manner that fits their usage. But in terms of when you actually go and watch what's happening, it's like, oh, okay, well, that's not quite how That's not what people think. That's not what they draw from the way it's presented in the Bible or in the Christian churches, etc. So, or even in the Jewish or Islamic churches, that whole energy thing, they don't quite get that. So
Okay, so how do we bring this back to the whole question about the reincarnation trap?
there is
There's
no
not really a trap then.
No, there's no real trap. You are responsible for your decisions. And remember what I said a minute ago about power? People don't access their power. Why? Because they don't want to be responsible for the outcome or the choices. They want to say, oh, it happened to me. Well, I'm sorry. The reincarnation happened because you chose it. And that is one of the gifts of life. And yes, there will be people that will help you if you make a really bad choice. They might say, oh, listen up here. You might want to rethink that before you go there. But it's still your choice.
Okay,
And
so if you have died and you're on the other side, do you
uh-huh.
have full consciousness on the other side or not yet? Do you still have to go levels to get to that full consciousness
No, you
when
don't
you're on?
have full consciousness. You have a different kind, you have a consciousness of love. It's much more loving. However, all of your personal quirks and often your shortcomings, such as impatience or tendency to anger quickly, or a little bit of not very generous, tending toward greed, those still exist. Those are still there. You have to get to a point where you work on those and they no longer exist.
Okay. So you're still kind of on the other side. You're still kind of learning and going to reach the higher levels of consciousness.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it's way different from the way that most people think about reality and afterlife, reality and soul and spirit and God and all that stuff. We have these really wonderful stories that kind of pull everything together, and they will do until you wake up fully. And once you wake up all the way, and especially after Kundalini experiences, which are quite frightening. And Richard, I can hear you, Richard's like, no, 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 that's not for me. It wasn't for me either. I would never have guessed that such a thing was even possible. But once you have those experiences and you can't help but see and you can't help but know, and you move between the various dimensions of existence and experience the feeling state changes that occur and the changes in what you're able to perceive, it's a wow. It's like it's way different from what the stories are that anchor what I call the children of the planet Earth, who are not very awake yet. And those stories are really helpful for them. But for the awakened ones, for those who are starting to ask questions, you just keep asking those questions because they are very important. And they lead you to a whole different understanding of the nature of reality.
And I know I've asked you these questions before, and I don't know if we've ever videotaped it in just this way. So, can you get to the higher levels of consciousness without having a Kundalini experience? Or
Yeah,
if you don't have the Kundalini experience, is that going to stop you from reaching a certain height?
no, no, because if you can reach those higher levels of consciousness, but it's a practice. It is a persistent practice that you have to go after it. And Kundalini, um, it, even if you get into the higher states of, we'll just say, just enlightenment, okay, where you experience oneness with everything, that's enough for most people. And if I had to do it again, I would say, yeah, that would have been fine. Kundalini is something else altogether. It
And you
is
said it's dangerous too.
it is a roaring, shaking, shocking explosion moving through the body that hits the brain and obliterates yourself. And you end up, I mean, it happens quickly, but you when you come back into the self, you're overheated to an extraordinary degree, to the degree that you think you're going to burst into flame. You are still shaking. You feel disconnected from everything. Your consciousness has no limits because now everything has been rewired as you're connected to everything. And so learning to, shut some of that down or turn it on and off at will, that is a big process. So even just a little bit of practicing what I call active meditation, which is, not getting empty, not trying to empty yourself out. That's like, okay, what are you going to do with that? Emptiness occurs naturally in a Kundalini experience. But for the huge majority of people, what you want to do with meditation is to explore, to say to yourself, you're very quiet, you're sitting, you're undisturbed, and you're going to say, I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to watch what goes through my mind. And then after a while, because consciousness gets bored when nothing is happening, it starts to move around. And then you may suddenly, wait, what did I see? Where was I? What was I just looking at? And you'll realize you had a psychic moment or you had an out of body moment. So you begin exploring. And that is a fine way. That is the perfect way to get into, if you want a full Kundalini experience, I would say it's worth it, as long as you don't burn up in the process. People
And
have
you mean literally, or
literally, yeah. Yeah, if your wiring is not good or you have too much resistance, then at that, and I mean, that's people have burst into flame for no reason. Well, the reason is because that incredible electromagnetic energy is moving through you. It's pretty intense. It's more than intense. It's mind blowing. It's mind blowing. So, yeah. So I think, all in all, we should probably bring this to a close just by saying the nature of reality is very different from what we grow up believing or what the churches teach. All of the churches, all of them, they all tell stories and they're fine stories. But once you get past the stories and you start moving into spiritual maturity, that's when everything changes. And that's when you begin to ask questions, and you cannot leave out the science or the physical experience that you have had as you explore that spirituality. It's all one. And I think that's where a lot of people get caught. They think they have to drop their physical and their emotional and, et cetera, et cetera. No, that all of that gets integrated in. You are all of a piece. So,
I think it's like you need to tell yourself, believe in everything.
yeah. And then choose which ones you're going to respond to.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff happening that is absolutely amazing. Absolutely. And there's, next time we get together, we should talk about the science side of some of the stuff that's happening, that is coming together with the spiritual stuff. It's you'll hear me use those same terms, soul and spirit, in the way everybody else does, because we don't have much of a language that is specifically geared toward the science, the spiritual science combination. So we need that. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, I really appreciate the discussions that we have because,
Okay.
you
Yeah.
know, it helps everybody.
I hope so. I hope I didn't frighten anybody, Hang on.
Well, I've seen questions come in and people are wanting to have a Kundalini experience like you. And I just remember you saying it can be dangerous. And I think people need to be aware that there are other ways of doing the same thing.
Right. Yeah. Lots and lots of ways. Lots of ways. So yeah. Okay. So I hope this has been helpful for a lot of people. And we'll be back with some of the blending of science and spirituality and what we're learning about the nature of reality. It's pretty interesting. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, you're welcome. Take care, everybody.